Hello, and welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, sci-fi, and horror novels. I'm Evan.
And I'm Chad.
And today you're joining us for our recap and discussion of Book 5 of the Expanse, Nemesis Games. And wow, this was excellent. I said in the Monday episode that this might have been, it might be my favorite, but it might be I think Caliban's War is still my favorite so far.
Yeah,
but this
one was
right up
very
there.
Close.
It's really, really good. Man.
Which was good because I kind of felt the last, and I could be wrong at the end of the story, but I did feel that the last book was a little bit of the filler episode. Just like we're off kind of doing this thing, learning about the universe, I guess, which was nice. But it seemed like a lot of pages was devoted to that one goal, only to have like a conversation at the end with Avasalair and Bobby that was like super important.
Yeah, it really led into this book. I mean, I think Cibola Burn, after kind of looking at this, and I'm sure as we keep going through this series, Cibola Burn is a really important book, but I really like the direction that this book went. I mean, even I was a little worried at first that this would be a little on the boring side. I got initially excited because we had so much from the Rocinante crew ahead of us, but then they split up, and I was like, wait, no. This can't be how this is.
Totally.
Why are they splitting
Holden
up?
just left alone.
Holden.
And Holden is kind of in a tricky little kerfuffle because he's not quite an Earther anymore. He's been gone so long.
Yeah.
And he's not quite a Belter. So he just kind of like, it was very apparent to me that like his home are his friends and his crew, and when they're gone he's just like, I'm a puppy, like all alone.
Yeah, he even said that because he grew up in like a multi-family situation in Montana, and he just kind of realized like, oh, I don't really do that well when I'm by myself. Actually, I kind of need my family around here. As boring as I thought, and it kind of felt like the first like 100 pages was a little bit boring. Obviously, we're always in good hands with James S.A. Corey, and these separate storylines were so engaging, especially the Amos and Naomi chapters, in my opinion. Those were the best. The Alex chapters were great. The Holden chapters, I don't know, I feel like Holden kind of had a backseat this whole book, which is cool. We had a lot of him, in the first 4.
Him and Fred were just like hanging out and like hooking up,
I know. I was just like, can you two just make out already? Like, this is ridiculous. Man, I like Fred and I like Holden. But yeah, getting to see way more of Amos, way more of Alex, way more of Naomi. It was excellent.
Did you know that Naomi had a child before this book?
No,
me neither.
We'll get up into that.
Okay, we have another recap. Yeah,
that was definitely really surprising. Just to kind of right before the recap, I was not expecting James Corey to kill over 1 billion people in this book.
I was expecting one death. That would have emotionally hurt me more than the 3 billion, but because I thought it was going to be a Rossi crew, but nope.
If you had told me that was even on the bingo card for this series, I wouldn't have taken it seriously. Wow. We had a pretty pivotal point in this book, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. Let's get right into the recap.
Let's do it.
Nemesis Games begins at Tycho Station immediately after the events of Cibola Burn. The Rocinante is docked for long-term maintenance, and the crew splits up while it's being repaired. Amos Burton heads to Earth when he learns someone important from his past there has died, to pay his respects and to make sure no foul play was involved. Alex Kamal heads to Mars in the hopes of getting closure with his ex-wife and to visit Bobby Draper. Naomi Nagata heads to Ceres Station when she receives a message that her son Philip is in trouble. While Jim Holden stays behind on Tycho to supervise repairs to the Rocinante, he is enlisted by Monica Stewart to investigate disappearing colony ships. Facing collapse by the exodus of colony ships through the rings, militant factions of the OPA coalesce into the Free Navy, led by Marco Inaros, Naomi's ex-lover and father to her son Philip. The Free Navy wreaks havoc to the Earth by dropping asteroids onto the surface, and subsequently attempts to kill the Martian Prime Minister while en route to Luna, and Fred Johnson aboard Tycho Station. Amos survives the attacks on Earth, frees Clarissa Mao, and escapes to Luna with her help and the help of Baltimore organized crime acquaintances from his old life. Alex meets Bobby on Mars, and they investigate missing Martian military equipment and ships, which leads them into the middle of the assassination attempt on the Prime Minister. Naomi is kidnapped by her ex-lover Marco, the leader of the Free Navy, but manages to escape. Alex and Bobby rescue her. The crew reunites on the Rocinante. What's left of the Earth, Mars, and the non-militant OPA government meet on Luna. Naomi finally tells Jim about her violent past, and Amos asks that Clarissa stay as his apprentice. The Free Navy has encamped past the belt and is preventing anyone from going through the rings. In the epilogue, it is revealed that the Free Navy was sold most of its equipment by a rogue faction of the Martian Navy led by Admiral Winston Duarte, and that the disappearing colony ships are being consumed by a force within the gates. I kept that one pretty short and sweet.
That was nice. Yeah, it was. I was surprised. I was like, "Whoa, we're wrapping up."
Yeah, we got the high points here, and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff too. So the other ones were really long. So yeah, let us know, listeners, if you prefer the really long ones or the kind of short ones. It's all whatever you want. We can do it. But we're trying new stuff out.
We started with them very short, but then we learned that a lot of you wonderful listeners don't read the books and just kind of enjoy the episodes, which, if you're in for it, then I'm totally in support of you doing that. But so we made them a little longer so everyone can understand what we were talking about a little more.
We'll find a good sweet spot with it. Sometime, I mean, the first, I think I did one for Abaddon's Gate, which was like 19 minutes long, and it was just like, maybe that was too much. I
did one for Aragon that was like half an hour too.
But anyway, let's talk about Nemesis Games. There's so many things to cover here.
Should we start with the beginning or the end? I mean,
well, let's start with the beginning because I think the prologue needs to be cleared up a little bit, at least for me. So Philip was attacking Callisto Station. Was he attacking it to get the material that made the asteroids resistant to the radar?
That's so funny because I have like literally almost the exact same question. I'm like, so did he raid the yards, the shipyards on Callisto so he could get the high density resonance coding? And like they needed that, I guess, to prevent them from
detecting the asteroids that they were sending down. I think that's what that was. That was his involvement with it. So Philip, I would argue, is directly responsible and involved. You know what I mean? There's no.
He's a real piece of shit.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't really necessarily blame Philip. He's 15.
That's true.
Like if anybody in this situation has been groomed and gaslit besides Naomi, then it's definitely Philip. It was really
he's been manipulated.
Man, it was so brutal to read those Naomi. Like I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine what it would be like to have a child that you had to leave so for your own safety, and then to see that child again be completely manipulated, even in a situation where 1 billion people didn't die, right. Like just in a normal, like there's a house up for grabs or something, you know what I mean? Just right. Like a normal domestic situation, which would be bad enough and traumatizing enough. But Philip has almost no love for his mom, and I feel like the way he was written, I was waiting for it. Like I was waiting for him to kind of like break down in tears, and it kind of seemed like he was going to when Naomi was in the airlock, but I have a feeling it was more because she was messing up the plans and this wasn't according to the plan and he was really frustrated with it. I think Philip is all the way Marco, all the way OPA, or Free Navy, I should say.
He is 100% Marco for sure. And I think that Marco planned that, right? He was like, when you talk to Naomi, she's going to seem really nice. And like, I bet you he poisoned the whole thought. So he's like, I know who you really are, Mom, though he actually doesn't,
And my God, like Naomi just... Like gaslighting is such a rough thing to read about. It's such a rough thing to have happen to you. It's one of the worst things that you can do to another person is try to convince them that the thing that they're thinking is crazy or wrong, or just try to like alter their state of reality. And it's like really manipulative.
Changing their reality.
Yeah. And so, I mean, kudos to Naomi for not falling for it again, and it sucks that she had to go through all of this, obviously. Seeing her just go through every possible maneuver she possibly could to get off of that ship and then drift into the void of space, which that was a little eye rolly for me, because
same, I was like, okay, Princess Leia,
it's very cool. Right. It's definitely very cool.
Yeah, but for a book trying to be so scientifically sciencey,
I don't know. I don't even know what happens to you when you drift out of space. I'm pretty sure you can survive in the vacuum of space for like 10 seconds. Like
I think your eyeballs like explode immediately.
I don't know if I don't think your eyeballs explode immediately. And especially if you expel all the air out of your lungs, I think most of it's like scientifically sound. I just didn't like the kind of like sequence of events leading up to it, because wasn't she looking for like a crowbar or something? I didn't understand how she got the airlock open on the other ship. That's what I didn't like. She's just like
Yeah, like from
pressed a
the
button and
outside.
yeah, these are just our airlocks. Just you just press a little button and you can just get into the airlock. And then how does she like seal it back up? And I don't know. That was weird.
It would make sense that like they don't expect anyone else to be out there, right? But I mean, you could be boarded by someone with like like armor. I don't know. I was also like, okay, she's inside now, I guess. And I just looked it up. You could only last for about 15 seconds without a spacesuit, and you die of asphyxiation or you'll freeze.
Yeah.
If
So
there's any
she had
air
15
left in your
seconds.
lungs, they will rupture.
Totally. So I think that scientifically it was fine. Like I didn't. That wasn't the eye roll moment. It was mostly like that she just kind of found the side of the ship and then opened it up and got in there and everything was fine. And it was just like, well, why were you looking for a crowbar then? Like, why were you if you were trying to like
Right.
pry your way into the ship and
then how would you close it once you pried it?
maybe I missed a line or something, but I don't know. I just
I
thought
like we
that was
both
like
missed that line.
it was such a cool part followed by it was such a cool and very intense and gripping and suspenseful part followed by me kind of like raising an eyebrow and being like, how the hell did you do that? But it's
Same.
fine.
It's fine. I feel like they wrote themselves into a corner, maybe, and then they're like talking amongst themselves, like, "Do you think like anyone will notice?" And they're like, "No, they'll just be so stoked that she's alive. They'll be like,
I was
relieved that they'll
though.
just me too." She had a rough time of it. This book,
And there's like a couple moments where Naomi really, I think there's like 4 moments where Naomi is basically just like, well, this is how I die. This is going to be it. And it's not even in a necessarily like suicidal kind of way, which had been an experience that she had had way earlier. She kind of like felt those feelings cropping up just a little bit again because she was in that same situation again and looking at the same events playing out because of her again. And it was all happening all over again. But she had this moment in space where she kind of like looked around and saw the stars and she was like, oh, this is so beautiful, like this is the way to go. And for a flicker of a half nanosecond I was like, this is where they kill Naomi.
Yep, me too.
In the beauty of the vacuum of the void surrounded by stars.
My bloodlust has been sated with the killing of Earth. We don't need to kill anyone else. We don't need not Naomi.
Now let's talk about the bombardment of Earth real quick, because that was really abrupt, James S.A. Corey. We had the end of a chapter and then a news feed saying that Earth had been struck by an asteroid. And I kind of had to slow down and just really take in what was happening here.
Right, because we know more than that news feed and we're like, oh no.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like we knew that it wasn't an accidental asteroid.
Oh, well, I mean, I didn't really know at first that it was I thought it was just an asteroid that hit randomly.
Oh, I mean, I figured it was some sort of foul play.
Oh, did you think it was Marco? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, some shit. I mean, these fools are being shady.
No, I didn't think that really. I just thought like Earth gets hit by asteroids sometimes. And like, wow, we're throwing this into the mix now.
Let's shake this story up.
That's what I thought it was. But then the second one, obviously. Right. And then the third one, was it 4?
What are the odds? Yeah. I think it was 4. There was like one, and then one in Africa. The first one hit in Africa, I think, and then another one.
There's Northern Africa, and then I think one near where Amos was on the East Coast. Let's talk about Amos.
Okay.
Okay, so I loved the Amos chapter so much. I really liked him being on Earth, going back to Baltimore, meeting up with Clarissa Mao. I thought was great. Going into that jail, the conversation that they had. It was really just like bop, 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 like interesting, consistently interesting, pretty much the entire time. Amos, his character, it's so much. Like, it's so over the top badass that it's almost not believable. It almost like crosses into cartoon territory.
Yeah.
But there is a lot humanizing him as well. There's so much in there that makes for a totally rounded out, fleshed out character. His commitment to young, struggling people, like young people that are being taken advantage of. He has like a huge soft spot in his heart for them. Young people that he feels like can still be redeemed in some way. It's
right, because he feels like he isn't, right? It's like a main part of his character.
Yeah, and if you read like the novella about Amos, all of that checks out. They mentioned the churn multiple times. The Amos chapters are great. I just sometimes it doesn't take me out of the story, but it's just like when he's just like, yeah, that only happens to me on days that end in Y.
Like, yeah, okay. It was like someone throws him a knife and he like kicks it into someone else. You're like, yeah. Well,
yeah. But I mean,
so much.
We need that guy. We need that guy.
Yeah, we do. And he's the muscle. He's the tank character, of course, and he soaks it up. And like, I don't know, they've just been really harping on that aspect of him that he is just like ultra badass. Like the last one, he was basically like, he had people around him helping him defend. Who was the priestess? Who was the priest who was making the cast to the other ships? imploring them to do something. That was at the end of
Oh, Abaddon's Gate.
yeah, Abaddon's Gate.
Oh, I can't
Yeah,
remember her name. It was like a Volavodo or something.
yeah, something like that. But I don't know. It seemed like there was no one else. He's just like, I got this, and one person almost gets by him, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I almost didn't fulfill my promise. It's like, it's okay, man. You're single handedly like defending us against 30 guys.
I think he did have some of the more interesting chapters though, like them kind of going through the apocalyptic wasteland together. That scene where Amos and Clarissa kill that guy and take all of his stuff, like on that farmstead or whatever.
The super prepper guy.
I felt really bad for that guy.
Me too. He was kind of like wrong place, wrong time, man.
Yeah, and Clarissa was like, "Does that make us the bad guys?" And Amos was just like, I."
He's just like, it makes us the alive guys. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. He's so he's just like, it's just like survival and the people that are directly in his circle. And that was a big thing about this. At least the Amos chapters was like family, like tribes. People, when a catastrophe occurs, break off into these little tribes. Like that's kind of who we are as humans at the core. Like when I was reading Sapiens by Noah Yuval Harari, he kind of mentioned that anything after, I think, like 100 to 150 people, it's overload. Like we start not caring about people. And so Amos has kind of like his crew. He's got Holden, Naomi, Alex, and now Clarissa. And I think Avasarala to a certain extent. Like I love how he keeps calling her Chrissy.
Yeah.
That's
everyone's
really
getting
funny.
nicknamed. Got Peaches.
Why is he calling her Peaches? I don't know. Where did
know.
that come from?
Are they into? I guess they're. I don't know. Everyone's
got
a love interest. I think now. Me too.
No, they're not a love interest. That's like a father-daughter thing that's going on here.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I don't know. Peaches. I just thought the Peaches was. I don't
know. No. That's not a thing. I do think Alex and Bobby though.
For sure.
Alex and Bobby, can we get that? I'm shipping Alex and Bobby. Like let's just do it.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
It's like their personalities really like work with each other. Because Alex is really calm at the end of the day,
relaxed,
and he's very relaxed, and he's really charming in his very own way, and so is Bobby's. Bobby's super charming, but they're just in very different ways that kind of rub up against each other really well. And I like the shared silences that they have, the way that they eat together, the way that they talk about. They were both in the service for Mars. They have a lot to relate to each other about. I want to see it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
The Venn diagram of their personalities crosses heavily in the poignant silence. Like a little sarcastic nothingness, and they're like are saying volumes. Which is really cool because they have like their own little like way of communicating. And so I think, I'm with you totally 100%.
And they both seem to have this this kind of characteristic where they kind of underestimate themselves quite a bit. Because Alex doesn't seem super confident with really anything except for sitting behind in a pilot's chair, or is sitting in a pilot's chair. That scene,
the needle.
Wow, man, that scene where Alex and Bobby are running away from those dark, like rogue ships in front of that moon. I think it's an asteroid or a moon, where they thought that other ship was going to be, and then all those other ships came out and started shooting at them, and then he just, without even telling Bobby, throws it into like 10 G's or something.
I think it was 15 G's.
God, that was probably one of the more exciting parts of the book for me. And it's cool because you see it from a character who has been, I guess, meek. Is meek too strong a word?
No, meek is the right word.
He's so, if I could sit down and get a beer with any of these characters, I think it would be Alex, honestly, because Holden is a little too Boy Scoutish for me. He's changed a lot. Holden, we're gonna get to Holden. We're gonna get to Holden, but like Amos for me is a little bit. He's just too intense. Like I think he'd be fun to a certain extent, but I don't think he would like me.
I would want to. He would like you just fine. I mean,
know.
As long as he doesn't really like anyone unless you're in his family. But I would want to, if I was hanging out with Amos, I would strategically plan an event. Like you need to be doing something because like you don't want to let him pick what you're doing, or else you're going to end up like fighting a bunch in a bar fight or something. So you want to play pool or like have an activity, but he's not going to be telling you sweet stories about his past.
You know what I really loved was the conversation between Amos and Alex at the beginning of the book. Alex was kind of pouring his heart and soul out to Amos, and Amos was just kind of giving him very clear, short, honest answers. And you don't see that super often, even with like really close friends. And I thought it was a really cool conversation to have them have. They really showcase their individual personalities and the ways that they've grown together through everything that they've been through over the course of these books. Is that Alex is comfortable enough with Amos to tell him all this stuff. Amos is comfortable with Alex not to lie to him or sugarcoat anything, and Alex is comfortable enough to receive those answers and know he's going to receive those answers from Amos. So that was
Right.
awesome.
And if you're looking
Fantastic.
for like savage honesty, Amos is your man. He just doesn't care enough to like be, maybe it's not even a care thing. He cares enough to be honest, and he doesn't say words flippantly. You know, if he's going to say something, you probably should listen because it's probably going to be important. Because he just doesn't talk besides when he has some truth to spill. You know. Okay, what did you think about Clarissa kind of joining the crew? It seems like really fresh after the whole like I'm gonna kill you thing.
I don't really have like feelings on it one way or the other yet. I'm definitely not. I think Holden is being a baby. Like it's come on, like she's kind of redeemed herself. I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I think I'm a little protective as well. I'm just like, no, you don't. You tried to kill them like how many people? Not many pages ago.
I think that's why we paired Clarissa and Amos together, because like look how many people Amos has killed.
But I mean, she was specifically trying to kill them.
but she's not
talking
anymore.
About just, like, they've killed.
She's not anymore, and she's really useful. She's super smart. She was able to get Amos off the planet. Without Clarissa, Amos would not have been able to leave Earth.
You're right.
So, or maybe he would have been able to, but it not in a timely manner, so that they could all unite at the end.
And it was a really good idea to actually have her pair with Amos, because if there's any one that like if one person says yes, this person is accepted, the rest of the crew will be like, yeah, that's fine, it's Amos, right? Because he's not going to do that with anybody basically. So
yeah, and like I mean Amos's past is super dark, you know. I mean Clarissa's really young. It's fine. But I also don't think, you know, absolutely we need her as a part of the crew either, you know. So
yeah,
I have definitely mixed feelings. I kind of want to see how
maybe
she'll
be
in
my
the
death.
next your death.
I'm still hunting for it. Well, I really wanted to, you know, but I got a lot more than I really.
Yeah, you got about 999,000,000
more than I bargained for. But yeah, maybe she's introduced and kind of becomes part of the crew, so they can really build her up emotionally, and everyone like really likes her, and then destroy her.
I think she technically is part of the crew now, because at the very end, Avasarala tells, I can't remember exactly how the conversation went, but essentially Naomi said, I want total immunity for me and for the crew. And so then that's why Amos says, well, I'm bringing on an apprentice. So technically she's now part of the crew because she gets immunity too. And you know, Avasarala was just kind of like, all right, whatever.
I'll just go over here and control the rest of the galaxy over here. What governing body is she the head of? Because she seems to be at the top of all of them.
No, she's a de facto acting Secretary General of the United Nations. So I think she was second in command technically. The Secretary General, who it seems to be like the governmental body and like function of Earth doesn't seem to really be super fleshed out yet. Or I don't know if it's going to be.
Yeah, it definitely isn't going to be now.
I think the Secretary General, I don't know if they are literally the leader of the world of Earth, but I think that they're the leader of a military or whatever kind of like service, like armed services there are, fleets, stuff like that.
Head of the protection side of
guess.
things.
I don't know. But yeah, Avasarala was second in command, I believe, and then when the Secretary General died in the bombardment, she got promoted to first in command, which she kind of already was anyway. But I don't think she has anything to do with Mars. I think that was kind of like your hypothesis or whatever.
Well, someone said, and she's basically like she's like the head of Mars as well. Like there was like a line, maybe it was like a throwaway line by someone who didn't know her very well, but someone was like, she's that person that you don't know who's like been controlling Mars this whole time. And I remember reading that.
Yeah,
but maybe
I think Smith doesn't seem to be like super on top of the ball, you know. But he doesn't seem like a bad leader either. We just haven't really heard much from Smith, so it sounds like maybe that was like a joke. But there is somebody.
Maybe it was. Maybe I just totally read it wrong, and I was like, "Oh my god, she's controlling Mars too."
But there is somebody named Winston Duarte who we should talk about, because that epilogue was really informative. That epilogue was probably my favorite epilogue. No, the epilogue for Cibola Burn was really good. Avasarala and Bobby's conversation was excellent. Actually, the epilogues for all of these have been really good.
They are. They really hit hard.
Yeah. But in the epilogue, we see that something is eating up these ships. And Duarte, did you notice that Duarte is the person that Alex talked to on Mars? Alex and Duarte had a conversation. And I almost missed that. And then I was like, wait, didn't Alex talk to a guy? Okay, so that was an interesting conversation. So Alex goes and talks to this guy. He like talks to one of his friends, and then his friend is like, "Let me get you a meeting with this guy." I didn't suspect him at all. He really
Me
seemed like he
neither.
was trying to play his own investigation by the book.
Mhm.
But he didn't really help Alex either. And I kind of read back through that conversation, and there are definitely some moments where Alex is like, "We're missing some ships," and Duarte's just like, "Ooh, like, are
Ooh,
you now?" Yeah,
that's
that's
odd. Let's not even go look for him.
so. Duarte is the the real puppet master behind Marco, who I think we should definitely talk about
Yes.
now, because Marco.
He's the real piece of shit.
Okay, so I thought Marco was easily the most interesting antagonist in the story so far by a mile, because I mean everybody else has been pretty interesting to a certain extent. You know, they've got like their reasons for stuff, or they're
Right, the head of
ostensibly
the space station protomolecule guy. He was pretty interesting, but he
like
was very,
Dresden.
evil. Yeah, Dresden. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of them were mustache twirly, kind of like I'm just like money or power or whatever. But Marco, this is like a whole different thing. This, and not only is it a lot more complicated, and I'm not trying to justify his actions, but it is more complicated, and we get to see way more of it through Naomi, who already has a history with him. So we as the reader are much more intimate with this whole situation. Marco, okay, let's talk about him, because man, there's a lot to it. Doesn't seem like there's a lot to it, but there actually is, in my
Like, is he?
opinion.
What do you think his motivations are?
I mean, I think he truly thinks that with all of this new colonization, with all these ships going through the rings, like the Belters, I need to make this really clear. If for anybody that's reading along with us and hasn't gotten to this point yet, the Belters can't go to these other planets.
No,
Like, see, that's a really big deal. They can, but it's like a year or something of them
no,
taking a
they don't
bunch
have
of
the
drugs.
bone structure.
Yeah, well, they
They
can.
can't be in an atmosphere that has gravity because they grew up without it, so it'll be painful.
Yeah, I think like babies might be able to or something like that. But like the vast majority of the population of the Belters, which is a lot of people, cannot survive on these planets, and so they're going to be forgotten about. Like the Belters supply so much to the inner planets. That's why we have like this kind of very shaky working relationship of trade, much like we do on Earth right now with different nations. You know, whereas the relationships aren't super good, but we do have a very good like trade thing going.
Right,
That's
as
kind
long
of
as
like keeping
goods flow,
everything. Yeah,
soldiers
exactly.
don't.
So that's the thing, is that when all these planets have as many resources as they could need, in theory, these Belters are going to be left behind. And it's, I think, from Marco's perspective, nobody is going to do anything about it because there's so much wealth to be gained. They are going to be left behind. Not to
Totally.
mention the not necessarily xenophobia, but I would call it racism. You know, against
Absolutely.
Belters. You know, it's really there. It's an
It's us
actual thing.
themism for
Yeah.
sure.
And then that's not to say that, like, you know, the Belters definitely seem to have their own prejudices, but I think from Marco's perspective, when you kind of combine the situation that the Belters are now facing with a lot of the prejudice that they've seen, which seems to be pretty heavily weighed toward the Belters, you know, I would
Yes.
say people are more prejudiced towards Belters than Belters are towards the Inners, in my
Well,
opinion.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that we've seen a lot of the belt. Like we've spent more time with the Belters, and so we've seen them be like very vitriolic towards people who are outsiders, and but I think that's more of a reaction to the rest of the universe kind of shunning them and being like, you're just the tools that we use for labor out there. But yeah, they've got a major problem on their hands as the next, like, it would be very terrible to be like a 10-year-old Belter right now, because I remember when in the second book, I think the priests, her partner took their child to Earth because they were like, he's coming up on like 3 or something, we need to put him in atmosphere so that he grows.
That was
And
book 3, I think.
was that book 3? Thank you.
Yeah.
And isn't just stuck in non gravity wells all of his life because his body grew that way. But there's a whole generation of Belters that will be as the rest of us, me, I am going forth, as the rest of the universe kind of goes forth and settles, finding, like you said, way cheaper resources that can now outcompete what the Belters, the one advantage they did have. It's going to be an interesting journey for them.
So, okay, so all of that being said, that is not a justification in any way for killing a billion people with
Oh,
asteroids.
for sure it is.
And
No, I'm
so,
just kidding.
like, I think so. Here's how I'm thinking about all of it after reading this and kind of thinking about it. Okay, so I mean, it definitely got attention on the Free Navy.
Well, yeah,
that's for sure. But I feel like they
you
could
get
have
attention by like blowing up an envoy, not a planet, the planet.
Yeah, because I mean now I think Monica said it, or there was like an interview where I think it was Monica said this isn't a war, you know, and maybe it was Avasarala. I think it might have been Avas. Doesn't matter. They said this isn't a war. They've committed crimes. You know, like this isn't a nation against another nation. No, these are terrorists.
These are terrorists.
And we're going to go deal with this. I don't know what Marco was hoping to accomplish. Or see, this is the thing also, is that I don't think this isn't Marco's plan. He didn't come up with this. He's being directed by Duarte.
Yes.
At least I think that's what's going on. I could be wrong. I could be proved wrong in the next book, but I think Duarte saw in Marco somebody that could be taken advantage of because of his ideology. He was already, I'm gonna use this word here liberally, but I don't really know if it applies, but I would say he's an extremist.
Well, absolutely he is.
Yeah, he killed a billion people.
He killed a billion people, man.
Yeah, right.
In order to get some attention to his cause, he drove an asteroid into the planet.
Right. You're right. But I think that Duarte did come up with that plan, and he's got an idea. So it's funny because your knee-jerk reaction is kind of like, what does that gain for Marco? But I think that he's already so far gone, and he's already so like desperate, you know, for some kind of change. Like he wants the Earth and Earth and Mars to fundamentally change the system that the Belters are working in a lot of different ways. So I feel like in Marco's mind, he's like, this is probably going to do it, you know? And if we can,
like it's time to get their comeuppance. It's like a big middle finger sort of thing.
Especially if we can take out Fred Johnson, who it makes sense that he would think Fred Johnson is an Earther turned Belter who has killed a bunch of Belters, which it's not. Fred Johnson is all day Belter, you know, like he's proved himself over and over again. Like go read Butcher of Anderson Station. That's
100%.
So yeah, Marco is very much wrong here, but I definitely, it's so weird to say I see someone's point of view when they just killed a billion people, but I get it because he's looking out for, this is a real situation. The Belters being in distress here is real, but his methods were completely uncalled for, and Mars is kind of dealing with this too. You know, like it's
not going to fix the problem. Okay, so here's what I think it's going to exacerbate the problem, I would think, because as the planet is now basically ruined and destroyed, I feel like there's going to be a mass exodus because there's a whole bunch of not recently asteroided planets that Earthers can go live on. And so I don't know if he was like hoping inside like maybe a thin justification for his thing of like it wasn't just a middle finger, like that was the primary reason, but also he's like, well, maybe they'll come like make our economy good by moving out here, but I think they're just going to fly right on past and go out the gate.
Well, what they want to do is like shut down the gates and then bring all the resources that they had been trying to get through the gates over into the belt, right? And they wanted Ganymede to work in sync with all of this as well, and basically strengthen the belt and the outer planets into their own, basically like self-sufficient society that doesn't really need Earth and Mars anymore. But I think that that's a really shoddy plan because you're never going to stop that kind of progress ever. It's never going to happen. Like you can try as hard as you want, but people moving to where there are resources has been what people do this entire time. We will find a way. We're not going to live where you tell us to. Like and it's almost like one of those things where, you know, you've got 50 billion people that want to go live on resource rich worlds and be self-sufficient too. Like they want what you already want, Marco. You know, you are caught between a rock and a hard place here. Your specific situation is really kind of untenable for you, right? But at the same time, you're kind of fighting against a raging river of people trying to go live their own lives and have their own nourishment and plenty and things like that. So again, I totally see why that would be so frustrating, you know, especially when you've had a lot of prejudice like directed your way for most of your life too. I mean, I think it's a brilliantly written villain here, because I see every side of everything.
I agree, though. I mean, he's not being very logical, though. I think he's probably way beyond logic. He's just like purely emotional. So I understand, like you said, I do get it. But like me, when I'm reading, I'm like, what is this even accomplishing? You're not even doing anything, man. And like, you're not going to make the belt better by destroying Earth.
But see, that's how Duarte. I think that we got to keep an eye on this Duarte guy,
dude.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
he is the puppet master, the elite.
Because I think he recognized that Marco was ready to believe anything.
Yeah,
and
he used him.
That's a dangerous position to be in if you're about to be manipulated by somebody. And oof, it's
so
ironic.
At the end, yeah, it is ironic. Marco issues like a statement, and he declares himself the commander of the Free Navy, right? But I think that he's still just the front man for Winston
Duarte.
Winston.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, he said the MCR and the UN no longer control anything outside of their planets, and so it's like the belt is now a thing.
Totally, that would be nice, but I don't know now. I don't know what's going on. I think that Babylon's Ashes is going to shed a lot of light on what is actually happening here.
Got a very hope-filled name.
I think that I know, right?
Babylon's. Oh, jeez.
But I feel like maybe Nemesis Games and Babylon's Ashes are like one book, because this felt like half a book. It felt like Empire Strikes Back almost, in the sense that nobody really won anything. Like there's no real victory here.
Everyone lost.
Yeah, and it feels like there were a lot of questions raised, and we didn't really get the answers to them. And that in the sixth book, it's a lot of maybe hopefully revelation and a lot of seeing who's actually in charge of things, and maybe we'll get some more answers about the old thing that's eating ships, which like I don't
or the
know.
Gate.
Well, I mean, I understand what the gate is. Well, I think that there's something on the other side of the gate that is eating the ships, because I think you can still get a signal from the ships once they're through the gate. But see, that's the thing, is that they're not getting those signals from those ships once they pass through the gate. That's what Monica shows Holden, is that these ships are just disappearing into, like, as far as I can tell, like just like this glob of evil. Is that really? That's like all I know right now.
It's like pure evil. It's like, turns out dark energy is not a thing. It's evil and it's everywhere.
I hope that's not what it is. I hope it's not just like dark matter or something like that. I hope it's sentience. Like I hope it's like a, I mean, I don't hope that, because that would suck for everybody, because whatever that is probably
unfathomable blob of evil and sentient malice, or just Winston's gonna unzip his suit and be like, lizard people at the end.
That'd be cool too. I would be here for that. I don't think that's what's gonna happen, but definitely would be cool with that. But yeah, I'm really excited for book 6, even though I've seen quite a bit of discourse that says that book 6 is the slowest book on a lot of people's, like, I looked up like ranking lists and stuff that people did on Reddit. And Nemesis Games seem to be hovering right in the top 3 for most people. And also Tiamat's Wrath, which is book 8. Apparently book 8 is really, really good. But apparently book 6, don't look forward to a whole bunch of action, I guess. But I don't know. I don't really trust the internet too much on that kind of stuff.
Neither.
It's funny because, like I've said in many other podcasts, like I'm not a huge fan of political maneuvering and intrigue and stuff, but I'm into it with this. I'm really cool with this.
This isn't like politicians arguing in court and being like, no, you must marry my daughter and force her to do it. It's like, it's not like all these like string pulling. It's like, there's that happening, but it's more like chaos. This is when I say I need and love a good shaking of the snow globe. This was the ultimate example of the shaking of this. It's like, they shattered that thing against a wall.
And you got these politicians like Avasarala who are so colorful and so magnetic. And, my eyes just can't leave the page when she's on it. And she's talking about politics a lot of the time, but she just dresses it up so well. And it's so funny and really.
It's like a pirate queen.
Yeah, right. She's so capable that I just want to see her be really capable all the time, even though it's kind of like mired in this kind of like soup of delegations and politicking and stuff like that. But I'm so cool with that.
I don't want to go back. I do. I'm going to go back to Duarte here. The Admiral Duarte who took over the Duarte. Is it Duarte? I think in order to make it Duarte, it has like the little, but you're probably right. It probably is Duarte.
I hope it's not Duarte. That doesn't sound as cool.
No, not at all.
Maybe. I don't know. I did an audiobook this one.
I did. I should know. I just like never remember. I was like, right, whatever. So he, at the end, he kind of was like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna like take over the rest of the Martian Navy because I'm like admiral and like do my own thing here. And then he's like, I'm gonna be working with the Free Navy, but I think he might turn on him maybe like once he's in position behind him and take
No,
him out.
he'll use them as long as they're useful.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe once he's got him surrounded, he's like, let's join forces. Then he's got like all of his
He'll do
high
whatever
tech
is
Martian ships.
he'll
He's like,
do
let's take him
whatever he
out.
needs to do. What I'm wondering is if Duarte knows something about what's eating up these ships in a way that like nobody else does. Like how far ahead of the game is he? That's what I want to find out in the next book.
Right.
Like what is it that what information does he have and also what did he need the protomolecule for?
Right. Because he's got some protomolecule.
He does. He has the only protomolecule sample that there is. And I thought that was so let me just real quick, as far as like zany stuff happening, like the protomolecule getting stolen and Holden I just pictured Holden like with his hands on his head, just like, oh no, they stole
no. More protomolecule.
I understand how it was taken in that whole scene. That scene was interesting for sure, but it was just like, come on, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh
it's
man,
fine.
I mean,
It's fine.
I feel like it's kind of hinted that Duarte has a much larger, more powerful alien artifact in his possession as well. He's got some strings that he's pulling that are way bigger than we know.
I really want to find out what's going on with that. Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
So into him being an alien.
I would be cool with him being just the main, the big bad.
Yeah,
like the
entity.
Because we still haven't figured that out yet. But were you suspicious of Prime Minister Smith? Because I was. For sure. Were you really? Sure. Oh my god!
I mean, his name is Smith. First off, it's like, yeah, no.
Sorry to all the Smiths out there.
Yeah, sorry, Smiths. Matrix really messed that one up for you.
But I don't know why, but like there was a part where Alex was piloting the Razorback, and he could like hear Smith talking, and I felt that like that was a weird thing to put into the book. That Alex could overhear Smith's like snippets of Smith's conversation, and Smith was being like really polite and like cooperative and cool and like calm-headed about everything. Like it's almost like he thought it's almost like he knew he wasn't gonna die. I don't know. I don't know, and I could be so wrong about this, but this Smith guy, we haven't spent enough time with him, and I don't know. He seems like a pretty good person to have on your side, Duarte. Like Marco. Because Marco didn't really even say anything about Smith either. So I don't know. But, I've been
eyebrows raised in his direction. So the ship, the book ends with the Barkeith going through the Laconia gate, right? Which is like the one that keeps eating, or something on the other side keeps eating ships.
Yeah, because Duarte's not on that ship.
No,
right?
No.
They're just mentioning him.
I think that ship is dead.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's totally
Absolutely.
dead. Totally dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, they got to like, become aware of the detail of the granular
that was weird. That was a weird last few paragraphs.
Occasionally these books, they're so marvelous in this way that they're like they haven't gone straight like Little Green Men yet, but they've gone, you are everything and nothing. Like
yeah, it's an interesting idea.
They write it well.
Yeah, they really do. It's very visual for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough thing to write too.
Yeah, like I've read some fantasy novels where like a character becomes like a god at the end, or like evolves into some greater being and takes over for some deity that sacrificed themselves or something. And I've definitely seen that like omnipotent sense done way worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I read it and I'm like, cool.
I have a question, and it's important to me that the answer to this question is the answer that I want it to be. So help me out here.
Okay.
Does Bobby strap herself to a missile? And then
no.
Is that not what happened? I think that's what happened.
She does. She uses her magnetic boots.
That's what I meant.
No straps.
Okay, I meant strap in like the sense that. So Bobby, I just thought it sounded cool.
But she surfs it like a surfboard.
That's what I thought happened. Oh my god!
Yeah.
And then she grabs Naomi. She grabs Naomi, slams an oxygen tank into her. That was so. Oh my god! Like that's one of those. Awesome. That's a really good example of moments in these books. Just like Amos is kind of like this character, but all of his moments are these moments. But it's just the moments in these books that are just flirting with stupid, but it's totally not touching that line. But it's just flirting with it. But because it's just flirting with that line, it's so cool. Like it's so goddamn awesome. Yep. And the way that the chapter ends too is Bobby's just like, "How good are you with those missiles?" And I was like, "No way, that's not what's gonna happen right now." Oh my god, I'm so happy that's actually what happened. I didn't.
That's absolutely what happened. Okay, so the one thing that I was like, maybe I don't believe you, is when um Alex was running away from the missiles, doing his 15G burn, and then he ejects his core, and like everything in space is like you're close if you're within like a kilometer of something, like almost a mile. And somehow he gets the core to hit one of the missiles. Like, how big that seemed like a ridiculous needle shot right there, you know?
I think there's just some stuff in these books that's just like, if it's a chance of it happening, and it
Yeah, or
happens, we just keep going. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So
Like
because
if there's a wall of missiles, the Rossi will find a way to get through them.
I did like in this book that there wasn't a ton of Holden, Alex, Amos, Naomi just in gunfights and running around and like not getting
Taking out
shot by
30
anything. And
people.
yeah, I think that was a really good move to split them up, put them into situations that really tested them, but tested them in ways we hadn't seen yet in the books. Amos is dealing with basically the apocalypse, it's just basically
For sure, the
world
apocalypse.
ending.
Yeah.
And so like Amos is dealing with all of that with Clarissa. So he's basically got this malnourished prisoner with him going through the Fallout 3 wasteland with a bicycle, and no
Uh-huh.
supplies or anything. So that was really interesting to read about. Alex is in his comfort zone, but he's not with his comfort zone. So that was awesome to see him at a place like that. I do have a question about the Naomi chapters, not necessarily something that I needed clarification on, but I just wanted to get your opinion on something. Did you? I don't know. I didn't like the Naomi chapters at first because I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, who
Yeah.
are all these new people? Why is Philip here? What did he do? Who is this Marco guy?
Why did you push Holden away?
And it was a lot of backstory, which I appreciated because we didn't really get a lot of Naomi hardly through the first 4 books at all. I mean,
Right. Just she's
I'm really
brilliant and
happy.
has degrees coming out the
Right.
ears.
She was a really good engineer, and her and Holden are sleeping together. That's basically what Naomi was for the first 4 books. So I'm really glad that we got so much more of her. But at the same time, those chapters were very off putting, the first like 3 or 4 of them,
Yeah, they
until,
didn't fit.
yeah, until Marco got in there and then sewed up kind of some of why Naomi was there. Because that was kind of the question I kept asking myself over and over. I was like, why is Naomi even here? And I don't think I have a really concrete answer on that still. I was wondering if you could shed some
Naomi
light
here
on
like
that.
being in the story at all.
No, no, not in the story at all. But why was Naomi taken to Ceres and then to Marco's ship?
I don't have a satisfying answer for that because she was very
I had,
particular about not having Holden cut. Like she was like, I will break up with you if you like come with me. Like you have to stay, which I thought was like, whoa, you're just jumping to that right out of the gate. Like, okay.
I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense that she said that.
I don't know. It seemed a little like
No, because Holden
give the
in
guy a
her,
chance
I
to.
mean but in her, it wasn't like, oh, I need to keep these secrets from you. It was like, no, if you come with me, you're gonna get involved because that's what you do, and I can't have you just run in and be my white knight
Yeah, but
during this
that's
whole.
kind of what your partner's for. Like to be, a shoulder to lean on. Not a white knight, maybe,
But
but
not this
someone.
situation and not Holden. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, so,
true. Holden is like,
so I think that Naomi made a really good call there. And it was, I mean, Holden can trust her. It's like that's also what being a partner is too, is being able to
totally.
trust people and like
But he should, I don't know. I felt like she didn't handle it very gracefully. She's like, I will break up with you if you. And he's like, whoa, okay, okay. But
yeah, it was just really abrupt because they were just like hanging out, and she
yeah,
basically got a text message and packed a bag and bailed. So
yeah.
I see what you're saying. But
Threatened their relationship and peaced out.
so maybe I can shed a little light on this myself and then get your feedback on it and kind of answer my
Okay.
own question, because it seemed like Marco wanted the Rocinante there to disable it or something, or like he wanted
Yeah.
he invited
Oh,
he wanted Naomi to come because he thought Naomi would bring Holden. Is that
yes.
what was that what? And then
Yes,
when
yes,
Naomi
it was.
showed up
And then,
alone, he was like, ah, damn, this isn't
yep.
really my plan. And I really liked towards the end of the book as well, where we kind of realized that Marco didn't really get anything done that he had been wanting to. I mean, he didn't apprehend Fred. He didn't apprehend Holden. He didn't kill Naomi. I don't know if he wanted to kill Naomi, but nothing he wanted to do really happened except for Earth getting hit by all those asteroids, which definitely happened.
He was thwarted at every turn except for the big one. Yeah, there was. I think he was planning on like the Rossi would have blown up or something if they didn't recognized. They like called Alex and was like, "Hey, you were someone like wrote a program that was going to do something bad to the Rossi."
Right,
Like right
exactly.
in
It
the
was well, it
middle.
wasn't going to blow it up. It was going to incapacitate it, or at least that's what they said was going to happen. But I
Okay.
don't know if that was what was actually going to happen. That's why that whole thing was the only thing in the whole book where I was like, "Wait, what is going on here? Like, why is that like that?" So it's like they programmed the Rossi to blow up, but then someone said no. We only did it to like 3%, so it was just like incapacitate it or something. And so I don't know which one of those was a lie, and then Naomi's like, you wanted Holden to come here. Marco's like, no, I didn't want that to happen. And
Right.
Naomi's like, yeah, you totally did.
Yeah, you
But
did.
then, and then, like, Naomi, there was just, yeah, that was like the only part of the story was, I think on a reread, I'll definitely get more of that. But
There
I
was
was
a
a little
lot going on. There
unclear.
was a lot of ship names in this
In
book.
the
Like
whole
there was
series, there's
so many
tons.
ship names, and I was just like, I don't know what this ship is, you know?
Seriously. And if you could just name it like this ship is called Ship Brown, and this ship is
Right.
called Ship Orange or something. They're so, and the ship names are cool, and if you sound them out, while you're reading, they sound pretty cool. Like
Mhm.
Rocinante, that's a
Yeah.
cool name for a ship. But at the same time, I can't remember. It's like there's like Donager class, but like weren't they on a ship called the Donager?
Yeah.
Or
That's what I
which I
thought. Like
thought,
the first one that they were on the Mars ship, but like maybe it was just a Donager class was the first of the class or something, because
I
it's
don't know.
definitely a class of a ship too.
I don't know.
Uh, I had a good laugh at Monica. She's upset at Holden, right? Because he brought in Fred and like Sakai and Paula in on the investigation that they were doing where they like paid the data wonk. And I was like, yeah, like you thought Holden was your guy to keep the secret keeper, like Mr. Two Wars, because he can't keep anything to himself. Like, man, you should have seen that one coming from a mile off, Monica.
Do you feel like Holden has changed a decent amount?
A lot, yes.
Okay. How?
Yeah. He's still a self-righteous.
Yeah, he's still a Boy Scout.
He's still a Boy Scout, truly in his heart, and he will always be. But he's you just got to be realistic about these things. He's got a little Logan in him now.
Yeah,
You know,
he's wising up a little bit.
he's
Yeah.
wising up a little bit, and there's been times that he's almost killed people, like he got so angry at Miller doing in the first book, and he's awaking to the reality of the world and that things are far more complicated than this black and white bad good world that he really wanted to be the true reality, but he knows it is not, and motivations are a lot trickier and more in depth. He's just growing as a person. He's becoming wise,
The
but he's
world
not
isn't
wise. He's
split
just
into
more
to
wise.
good people and Death Eaters.
Yeah, and Death Eaters.
Okay, so as we kind of start wrapping up here, I feel like we hit a lot of the high points. But I wanted to read this quote from Amos, and it really just sums up Amos. It was when he was talking to Avasarala, and he said they were talking about Murtry, and Amos says Murtry swung first, so technically that was self-defense. And if I'd wanted him dead, don't you think he'd be dead? It's not like I quit hitting him because I was tired. That is Amos in a nutshell, right there.
Absolutely.
Perfect Amos quote.
Okay, before we wrap up here, maybe you can shine a little light for me on
Yeah.
Alex's wife.
Oh, I'm so
She
glad
just
they shelved
really
that.
hates him.
I'm so happy that wasn't a thing that we were going to do for the whole book. Like,
Yeah. Oh, me too. But
and
I don't. Really
I don't
get
think it was
where she's
bad.
coming from.
I mean, Alex bailed to go fly
Yeah.
ships. She wanted to be married and she wanted to have a life with a person that she loved, and he left. And I think she had every right to be upset about it. And
Yeah, I guess they do. They explain that in one of the last books. Huh?
yeah,
Where
it's
he was
when
just
Alex
like,
is
yeah,
talking to Alex is talking to
he was talking
Havelock.
about his military career, and yeah,
He was talking to Havelock,
totally.
and so Alex did bail. And I mean, I think it's fine if you want to go maybe have like some kind of post-mortem or something. I guess if you want to do that, that's your prerogative, but you need to be ready for the other person to not be receptive to that at all.
Right.
And I think
whose future you just destroyed.
right, exactly. And I mean,
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And I'm really glad that that's what that was. And Alex ended up kind of going on this wild goose chase with Bobby and stuff. And closure is a weird thing, because I feel like closure, when I was a lot younger, I thought that closure meant I was going to feel better about something. That's not necessarily what that is.
No, you're
It's
just at peace with the situation.
right, exactly. It's like you don't necessarily feel right. You don't necessarily feel correct. You don't necessarily feel good about the
You can still
situation
cry
anymore.
about it.
You can totally still cry about it, but you now know where things are. You now know where things lie.
Right. There's nothing to be added to that storyline.
That's a really good way of putting it. And so, if Alex felt like that storyline wasn't finished yet, then I totally understand why he would go and do that. But at the same time, I mean, I was even reading it. I was like, this isn't going to go anywhere. Like this.
No. Then like
You-
2 books
you
ago,
left.
she like blasted out something to like the whole universe, like broad.
Oh no, that was
something like,
about Prax. That was about Prax.
oh, okay, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Oh
you-
yeah, that's right. It was Prax's wife. It was just like
Yeah, that was messed up.
that was super messed up. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah,
dude.
I looked ahead. I looked ahead into Babylon's Ashes, and there's totally some Prax chapters. so-
Really? Okay, cool. Where do you think this story is going?
It's a tough one.
Hopefully not through the.
I don't
Laconia.
know because I think that so I think that the Free Navy is just this midpoint in the series that we have to deal with. And I think it'll be dealt with by book 7 or 8, or maybe the end of book 6. I could see the Free Navy either evolving into something bigger that it was intended to be by Duarte, or kind of dissolving and being like this kind of mid hump that we needed to get over to further unify the OPA and the Belters and Mars and Earth and stuff, so that we could face this threat. And I feel like maybe the Free Navy dropping all these asteroids on Earth was kind of like a last like thing that would start bringing people together so we could face whatever's going on outside of these gates. That seems to be
Yeah,
in my
I agree
mind.
with that.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah, that seems to be kind of like where things are headed. I don't know. There's a lot of specifics. Like, I don't know what's really going on Mars. I feel like we should spend some more time there.
Yeah.
Because Mars is a really important planet with a gigantic military and a gigantic navy and stuff. And
That is also going to get gutted over
exactly.
the next.
So I don't know why we haven't been spending hardly any time
time.
talking about Mars or even on Mars or anything,
We've been on
except
their
for
moons a few times.
well, we've had Alex on Mars, but it was kind of like an Alex thing, you know,
Right.
just checking out his roots and stuff, which I really appreciated. But yeah, I think that's kind of, this looks like we have to really start kind of coming together here and
Yeah.
understanding the existential threat that is kind of looming over everything. That's at least what I think is going to start happening. Maybe there will be another huge development that everybody has to contend with, but I feel like the Free Navy might be it. That'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
I think you're right. I think we will get that development, but it'll be after the Free Navy. And I think you're totally on the right path where it's like the proto-molecule hasn't manifested itself in a way that allows us as a species to come together to face something that could exterminate us. Even though that's absolutely what we're experiencing, it's not physical enough. It's still too ethereal. But like the Free Navy, that is an actual threat that the rest of us can kind of get behind and take out together, and then maybe face the next thing that might be the proto-molecule manifesting itself together.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have called that necessarily but it makes a lot of sense that we'd have like
Yeah.
this rogue faction break off, but I thought there'd be a certain amount of infighting, and then whatever this threat was would manifest in like the 5th or 6th book, and then the rest of the series would be about that. But I think we've got a little bit of a hitch here that we need to kind of even out first, which is definitely interesting.
Yeah, and I think even once we get, if we do get a large alien something or some other evil manifest itself, I think that at the end of the day, this will be a story of humans overcoming their own nature in order to grow beyond our means currently, which is like both physically and mentally and spiritually, all that stuff, you know?
I mean, that seems to be one of the main things that S.A. Corey is trying to drive home is this is not a rose-colored glasses view of the future. This is us as we are right now, just spread out into space. You know, there's really, unfortunately, in my opinion at least, and in a lot of other people's opinions, like the corruption that you're seeing out here, the backstabbing, the lying, the politicking, all of it, the machinations that are ruining the lives of millions of people all the time, that has not stopped. And
No.
it's very
The OPA
depressing.
is even more fractured now. They
Yeah,
can't
it
even get on the
sucks.
same
yeah,
team.
it's you know, and obviously a lot of science fiction deals in kind of like the sociological aspect of this kind of advancement and this kind of expansion and stuff, but I haven't seen it with such a bent towards the characters like I have in this. It's very good. Like,
which makes it a very emotional journey.
If I could sum up The Expanse, it's very good.
It is very good.
And with that, we'll leave everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, folks. Thanks for being on this journey with us. We're more than halfway through The Expanse now and loving every second of it.
Woo!
Definitely make sure to sign up for the Patreon. It helps us out a lot. Jump into the Discord. We have our own Expanse channel up in there. And look forward to our Friday Forge episode this week. We've got an episode for the Killing Moon coming out this weekend, and then the Monday episode and the episode for Babylon's Ashes next week. We got all kinds of cool stuff coming for you. Thank you so much again for listening. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day. And of course, happy reading.
Bye, everybody.